This show is sponsored by Horizon HVAC, who you can count on for all of your heating and cooling needs. Today's episode is brought to you by Burns Roofing, your trusted roofing experts right here in Rhode Island. Whether you're in need of repairs, a roof full replacement, or just some professional advice, Burns Roofing has you covered. With their years of experience and commitment to quality, you can rest easy knowing your home is in good hands. Call Burns Roofing for all your roofing needs. Here we are with episode 16 with the Mindset Radio podcast. We're sitting here with Bill Murray. He was mayor of Cumberland in 2015 and 2019. He is coming in to share a little bit about the Dean podcast that we had on. He reached out to me. Oh, I'm sorry. I reached out to him to kind of get some more transparency on the Dean situation. And we'll break into it just on how you got involved in politics. I'd like to know a little bit about yourself and how you ended up getting into the game of politics.
That's a great question.
I know.
And I was always in the corporate world. I left a big corporation out of Boston in around 1997. And I went in and started my own company dealing with China. And it was a sales company. I had a couple of partners out in New York. And lo and behold, I was always involved with Governor McKee on his campaigns throughout a time and worked on his campaign, solely on his campaign. Then I decided to get a little bit more involved, and I was involved quite a bit with near the end before he asked me to run for town council, but I had no intention of going on town council and certainly not mayor.
Yeah.
And he had asked me if I would run against a Republican that was running, and he had at that time control of the council, but he needed somebody to go against this Republican. And I refused like 3 or 4 times. On one day I was out in the golf course, actually.
It always happens on the golf course.
It does, and he kept calling me, and I said, no. And finally, make a long story short, I went. And I said, okay. I said, let me give it a shot. Went down, signed up, and then went home and told my wife. So we've been married. We've been married actually right now 61 years. So she's not surprised at anything I would do. But I never got in. I was never ran for an office. So I got together with a young lady, Bonnie Lodge, who was very well known in Cumberland, very involved in politics, and Joe Fleming. And you've heard of Joe Fleming.
Heard of him, yeah.
Joe's very politically savvy.
Mm-hmm.
And they got me straightened out to what I had to do, and I ran. And
What's some of the big things that they told you that were important?
Well, believe it or not, the big thing was if you are going to get into it 100%. And there's no question about it. The second big thing was you got to get out door to door. And a lot of people knew me because I was very active in coaching. I ran the Cumberland skating for, 6 years. I was in baseball. I was in a little bit of football obviously with my children.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very active and I knew a lot of people. But, until you get out and you start meeting people, you realize you don't know a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so the door to door was very interesting because what it allowed me to do was to get to know me and to hear their problems. And that was a big asset to me. So I knew what I was getting into. And fortunately, I believe I probably had over 60% of the vote. I obviously won. I went into the town council, which was really a pleasure. I enjoyed the 2 years on the council. I was the liquor commissioner on the council. So I was pretty active. And then the governor, he was a governor at the time, the lieutenant, he wanted to run for a lieutenant governor. And he said, a few people have asked me about you running. And I said, I have no intention to. Who else is there? And he said, well, there's a couple of guys that could run and we'll maybe run. And I said, if they run, I'll stay on the town council. Mm-hmm. Well, lo and behold, we get to June with the election primary coming up and nobody's moving. So Joe Fleming actually told me, he said, if you don't get involved right away, if you're going to do it, run for mayor, you better do it right now. So I declared, and I ran against 2 other individuals from the Valley, 2 real nice guys.
Who was it?
Danny Alves was one of them, and then Manny DaCosta.
DaCosta, I remember
And
him.
DaCosta was on the council with me. And so we had a three-way race. And obviously I won. It was a lot of work because of the competition.
What is it like being mayor? Like, what is it like the first day that
Well,
you get in?
first day is interesting because it's almost like a bomb just went out. And I always get a kick out of it because I had the business. When I left my company, I was number 2 guy. I was senior vice president. And so I had, a lot of background in executive work.
Yeah.
And I came in and
decision making, stuff like that.
And I started to check around, and I followed the governor at that time. Dan McKee was the mayor, and I followed him. And I have to say that one of the easiest things for me was really the budget. He left me with a very good, budget and financial picture, which is a big thing.
So it's very important what the prior mayor does and leaves you. And that goes for any position, correct?
It's absolutely. And I'm going to mention it later about when I left my 4 years to Mayor Mutter, I wanted everything done, and because I experienced it. But the other thing is you got to get in right away, and you got to be running. And so I called a meeting for the first day with all the staff, both union and non-union. They knew me, of course, because being on the council, but I wanted to let them know what I was looking for. And so I spelled out exactly what my desires were. And my major thing was that you are being paid by the taxpayers. They are your boss.
Right.
And I don't want to have anybody call me and say, I can't get information, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. So I laid it out clearly. One of the other things is that they knew we were in charge. I said, my chief of staff and myself will be walking around here at 8:30 in the morning. So it's not a country club. Not that it was, but it's not a country club. And I want to make sure that everybody is at their desk ready to go.
So you're basically like a business owner.
That's what you had.
You're running a town.
You're running, as I said, fortunately, my business background helped me considerably because I knew how to run. I ran 17 operations.
Right.
And I knew how to do it, and how to balance things is one of the most important. And one of the other things that I've found, which is very important, is who you have working for you.
That's everything.
You have to have, and I was very fortunate to have George Stansfield as my chief of staff. He was a rock. I had Sandra Giovanelli, who was the clerk. I inherited her.
Are these mostly inheritance, or did you handpick
Yes, no.
them?
George was new. My assistant Heather was new. So I had people that were new, starting off.
Yeah.
But then I had a couple of real good ones that were left over from McKee. And one of the things is when you come in, I had the ability to clean house completely, 100%, or keep some. It depended. So what we did is we screened everybody to see what was the best fit. And I guess that if I had to pinpoint anything, my success was that I picked good people, loyal people, that knew what I was looking for, and to make sure that they were going to follow kind of my rules.
Yeah. That's important. Team is everything. I own a couple of companies myself, and having guys that you can trust, guys that can run the organization or the company. If you were to say you have to jump on a plane and go to Florida for a week, you need to make sure that, that organization is being held together like glue while you're gone.
Yeah.
And just picking people that are reliable and do what they say they're going to do, and honest, hardworking people. Yeah. It's so important, and it's hard to find. How did you go about the screening, and what were some of the most important things that you looked for?
I had a great transition team that helped me, people that had backgrounds. One was a former mayor, Rick Alger. I had a guy that everybody in Cumberland knew, Dick Lynch. I don't know whether you remember that name.
Of course.
A personal friend. I had Ray Casey and Bob Walsh. I had very talented people on my transition team.
And these are politicians.
And not a couple of them.
Some of them were new.
They were just people that were very successful,
hard workers.
They know how to talk. And see, the biggest thing when you're picking people is to make sure you got the right people, like you just said, that are going to work hard for you, You're not standing over them.
Decision makers.
This is it. You've got to have people that can run with the ball, as they say, and that's so important. And like I said earlier, one of the other things is I put everybody on notice. I said, I'm not going to go around and badger you, but I'm going to be watching, and I want to make sure you're putting an effort in. I work hard, and I think that's the other lesson. Is I did it in my corporate life. I worked my tail off, and people knew it. And I think when people respect you, you see it with your companies. Mm-hmm. If they respect you and what you're doing and how you treat people fairly, that's the name of the game.
They're on board.
That's the name, exactly.
They're on board. So one of your accomplishments was the new police station. I didn't know that the original location was supposed to be at the monastery. Could you go into that a little bit?
Well, originally I inherited this so-called idea from the former mayor, which was Governor McKee. Mm-hmm. He had generated the design, well, not the design, more of the idea that we needed. There's no question they needed it. Our old police station was old.
It was beat up for sure.
So between him and Chief Thompson, who was the head of rescue, and Chief Damaris, they were originally involved with McKee. What was their idea was to go across there was about a small, very small parcel in the monastery, and put it across from the police station, which would have given you kind of a central location, even though it's not that far off the beaten path now.
Yeah.
But it would give you a better location.
It would have been central, more central for sure.
Well, would have been a lot of people consider Chapel 4 to be the center of town. It's not really, but it's close.
It's pretty close. I've always determined that as being the center of town.
And so it was a nightmare trying to get it at the monastery, because there is a block there that actually the current mayor, Mutter, when he was on the council, established that. I think one of the former mayors, I don't want to mention his name, wanted to put some type of a track in there for motorized carts or whatever, and I don't remember the whole thing. So they put up, and it was pretty ironclad, that nothing else can be built. Everything that you see there now, the senior center as an example, anything done to that has to be on that footprint.
On the footprint for the
senior. Now, you can't put new buildings in there.
Okay.
And so I did my homework on it. In fact, actually ended up with the Attorney General, sitting down with him and a couple of lawyers that I had. And they basically told us it would be a lot of money to fight it. And first of all, I didn't have the time to fight it or the money. And we finally resigned, and I had a committee. A lot of people in Cumberland probably remember a committee of about 7 or 8 people that did a great job, but we couldn't find the parcel that we really wanted to go with. So lo and behold, we were going to build off the current police station,
which is just a nightmare.
The biggest nightmare
would have been.
The biggest nightmare really is the fact that we would have to move at some point the police, and there's a Jolly, which is the auto bottle police right next door.
Yeah, there's not much room.
And that would have been a real headache.
Oh, so you would have had to move that place
we'd have to move over there for.
So you would have to had to buy them out essentially, no?
Well, or lease, and we were negotiating because we were down to the wire, and all of a sudden, a gentleman the property we were on now walked in kind of out of the blue, wanted to sell, and
across the street.
And of course we jumped on it. We realized that it could work out, because at that point we had a fairly good idea of what we wanted to do. We had
as far as a build,
right? We had $12.5 million to work with that the taxpayers okayed. Mm-hmm. So we really wanted to. I did. I wanted to keep it at budget or under budget, which we did, by the way. We were under budget when it was completed. And what we did really is that we saw this property, and then the design people that came in, the architect that came in, was able to design it the way we thought. Of course, not the way I thought it, but the police chief, as an example, working with the rescue director, because the rescue is on the if you face the building on the left side, that's rescue. Mm-hmm. And that was always the plans.
So do they get together with the architect and they
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of make a
we
decision
had
on?
many, many meetings
Yeah.
on that. And then this plan was developed. And originally, it was going to be 2 floors, and then we saw that as a problem, and we came out with this design, which I think, not because we did it, I think it's a beautiful. And we've had people come in and look at it because they're going to do it some other communities, and so it was
I think it was a success. It's a great building.
Well,
It's a great location. It's right across the street from
right.
from where it was. So what do you do with the old building now?
Well, the old building probably will be eventually ripped down.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Because it's old. It has a lot of problems.
So would you have started getting fines if you didn't like get on the ball and move? Like, would you have started
No,
getting?
I don't think. What it was is when you say fines, not exactly fines. We were quite worried about the liability.
Like,
because
so for example, like in my business, we do a lot of work for property management groups,
right?
And let's say their front ballast is off and it's crooked, or their front porch is not level. The town or whatever city they're in will fine them per day until it's fixed.
Yep.
So is that kind of a situation that you guys were starting to head into because it was so old, the building?
No, well, in some cases we had mold in there. As an example, now remember, they bring prisoners in there. One of the biggest factors was the prisoners had to be brought upstairs. These metal stairs were in there. And what our biggest fear was that, say, obviously you had some drunks and whatnot. If they ever fell back,
liability, yeah.
We had a couple of women that were on the police force that obviously are smaller. Mm-hmm. And that could have been. And the other liability is that because of the cramped quarters, we had locker rooms that the male and female had to. So you had to have a sign. So suppose somebody forgets to put the sign, and there's
it was one locker room.
Well, it's a locker room and shower. It was just antiquated. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah. I think the new location is great. It's awesome that it was right across the street, so there wasn't much, involved as far as moving locations or anything.
No, once we built it, they
smooth transition.
They technically moved themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was something to watch when you see them lugging boxes across the street.
Yeah, literally.
And we didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
And that was very important because obviously you have to keep going, and you're 24/7 on the police. So it was very well done.
Sounds like it's the best thing that could have happened. Even if it was the monastery, it would have been tricky, but it's only right down the street. You would have made it work. So let's talk about Mercy Woods a little bit.
Well, Mercy Woods was probably another gem that we were able to put together. That was also one that through some discussions, I found that somebody wanted to come in and put some houses up there and maybe some stores.
Where is that in location?
Well,
so people that are listening know.
West Rentham Road.
Yep.
It's next to Mercy Mount School. And also the nursing, Mercy, what is it called?
So West Rentham Road, you go down
out
hill.
Towards Rentham.
You go right
at the end.
Got it.
And so we found out it was up for sale. So I obviously didn't want a whole colony of houses there and some stores. There was 229 acres at the time. And so we got active on it with a few people. And we talked to the sisters were supposed to move within 2 to 3 years, but they wanted to sell the land, the land immediately because they needed money. So we were able to put together a package that was extremely valuable. It included the Pawtucket Water System, the Land Trust, the state, and ourselves to purchase that land. But one of the things that I totally insisted on, actually, I almost blew the deal because I wanted at least 17. Well, we used 17, but I wanted acres up there isolated for recreation. Because go back to the monastery, you could not do that on the monastery.
Because of that.
You can't build any fields or anything like that. So we're hampered by Diamond Hill Park, which is overused. And so we got a restriction that we would carve out. There are 17 acres, which is about 8% of the total, that are now for recreation.
Yeah.
So
8% total of like what you're
of the
allowed to.
total 229 acres.
Got it.
So that takes care of the, a lot of people have heard it recently and they go, oh, you're taking all. So part of it's conservation, which we agreed that we would keep. And that was a deal with the,
which is
with the
8%,
nuns.
which is 8%.
No, the conservation is more.
That's the 229.
Yeah, the fields are the 8%.
Got it.
And then we have hiking trails, which is also separate, which everybody loves now.
Mm-hmm.
And so those, the trails, the conservation, and the acres make up the 229.
Got it.
So we got into that and we signed the deal. We have first refusal on a couple of the buildings. I think we already took one of them that were there because there's a few buildings that are on there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the sisters are still in the original administration building, which the town has first refusal to when they're ready to leave. They were supposed to leave.
The original Mercy Mount?
The actual sisters headquarters.
Got it.
And that's a nice building.
Is that where they live? Do they live there?
They were living. I don't know whether they're still living there now. They had been. Yeah.
So I didn't know that. I didn't know that they lived there while they were teaching.
Then they had a couple of other buildings they were living in. So
it's such a nice location over there. And I that's great that we were able to keep it like that.
Right.
Because one of the beautiful things about Cumberland is that it doesn't get too overflowed. And I think putting what the original design and what it sounds like it would have been cluttered. It sounds like it would have been just something that's not Cumberland.
Well, just picture a couple of strip businesses along West Rutherford Road.
Yeah, like a couple streets down, like that.
And as I said, we were not going to let that. That's why the land trust jumped in and helped us. That's why Pawtucket Water wanted their water source protected.
Yeah,
because the sisters really made the deal less than what they originally wanted, and they made that deal because they didn't want to lose the conservation, which they were very proud of, and the hiking trails.
That was part of the whole deal.
That's it. They were really a little reluctant about the recreation, but I talked them into that.
Yeah.
I said, mainly, it wasn't an interest to me.
But it's not a lot. The recreation
17 acres.
Yeah,
and then
out of the 229.
We were able to right away do two. There's a field that's cut by one of the roads.
Mm-hmm.
So the field, which I think is like maybe 4 acres and maybe more, we were able to do that right away. But we never did because then I left office and it was never
pursued
done,
after that.
Never done. Now the story behind is that, and I kind of got a kick out of it. Actually, I was very pleased because the mayor and I got along. I didn't come in.
Mayor Mutter.
I didn't go out and purposely look for trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I became friendly. He called me in a couple of things. Well, go back to the police station. I really appreciated it. It was finished after I left, and he brought me back in for the ceremony.
Oh, that's cool.
Let me, speak and whatnot. So
it's better to have friends.
We had a good relationship, and I think we still do. Politics get in the way all the time, but when Mayor Mutter, the deans called Mayor Mutter and asked them, said, we want to get some money and help build some because they're big in baseball, the family.
Mm-hmm.
And Mercy Mount wanted some field for their baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So
that the deans were willing to pay for.
Well, they had other people too to help them, and that's what we needed because we didn't have any funds at the time. We had to bring water up. So the mayor said, "Well, get a hold of Bill Murray because he has the vision up there and whatnot." And so one time we met up there with the mayor and both deans, Dean Senior and Junior, and myself, and we discussed it. And the deans went ahead and hired an architect, and I worked with the architect probably 6 or 7 times putting a plan together, which I don't know whether you ever seen it.
No, I haven't.
It was out. It was in the paper and whatnot. It was a premium baseball little league. It was another premium field. It was multi fields for lacrosse and soccer, which we need, and field hockey.
Why wouldn't they? How come? Did you guys ever think about building like rehabbing the fields that we do have, like High Street and the one on
Well,
Neat Whipple.
that was that there again is money. Is that they've done some of the work on those fields, but again, it's money. But they're overused. The biggest thing is Diamond Hill Park.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah, yeah.
I have grandkids that play there, and I don't care what you do and how much money you spend. It's just too much use,
There is.
and it's one after
packed.
it's one after another.
The soccer field is. I mean,
Oh,
it's incredible.
yeah,
I mean,
and-
the amount of people that
I couldn't get.
you can't even park over there.
Yeah, and well, that's another part of the story. If we talk a little bit about Diamond Hill Park right now with the new facility, the community center going up,
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
yeah, because there's not any parking
No,
as it is.
I was up there a week ago for a flag football, and you couldn't move.
I know. So I was telling her we were trying to drive out of there, and I'm like,
What do you do?
yeah, I'm like, I got a big truck, so I'm like, I'm going to hit somebody. I can't. It was very hard to navigate, and it surprised me though there was only one parking attendant there that was kind of controlling the whole entire area, and I'm like,
And that had,
and the building's not even up.
that had probably be somebody that just decided to do it.
I
because
think
they
it was because he didn't have any
No.
staff shirt on or anything.
I know that, and
Yeah,
and that was one of the reasons. But we and the deans then submitted the drawings to the mayor, Mayor Mutter, and they never went anywhere. It was a closed deal, which is, I think, I can't speak for the Brad Dean, but one of the reasons that he wants to get involved. And here you had to design what to do. You had people like the deans that were willing to go out to other businesses and raise money, and it just fell. And I can't answer it. Your mother maybe could, and I'm sure he has a reason. But it's a shame nothing happened.
All right, let's take a quick commercial break to bring you our sponsor, Burns Roofing. I've been personal friends with Eric for over 20 years. He's an incredible stand-up businessman. And if you ever need anything regarding roofing in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, give them a call. They do honest, hard work, and he is my go-to whenever I need anything in roofing needs. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Pro Landscaping, Rhode Island's trusted partner in creating beautiful, functional outdoor spaces. From detailed lawn care to full-scale landscape design and hardscape installations, they bring expertise and a commitment to excellence to every project. If you're looking to elevate your property with skilled, reliable professionals, Pro Landscaping is here to make it happen. I noticed that a lot of people reach out to Mutter for a response on a lot of this stuff, and he doesn't give. I've reached out to him and invited him on. Told him I don't have a horse in this race. I'm here, literally, like this wasn't a political thing. I got in. We started doing this show for business reasons, networking and stuff, and we kind of just got involved, and which is great. But I invited him to come on. He declined. I saw a couple of other situations where people were asking him about that stuff. And, I feel like that's a tactic, I guess, in politics, is kind of just don't say anything and hopefully it goes away.
I don't have that. Maybe I don't have the smarts to do that. I say it the way it is. The way I look at it and the way I ran for 4 years is I was a 24/7 mayor. Everybody will tell you, everybody saw me. I was everywhere. As the old saying, when Cianci was mayor of Providence, he'd go to an opening of an envelope.
Yeah.
I was like that. I can't speak for other people because other people are different.
Yeah, of course.
But to me, and I see that in Brad Dean, by the way.
Yeah.
And when we could get into a little bit of that, is that when he came to me for advice, I originally said, don't do it. Not because he can't do it. Is that he has a son who's a pretty good baseball and hockey player, and he's got a daughter who's a good softball player. I said, you're not going to be able to watch them all the time and I knew it. I gave up golf as an example. And if he goes over and sees his son play baseball at Fian at 3 PM, maybe he went into work at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
But one person sees him and all hell will break loose. So anyway, I tried to talk him out of it, but I realized after 3 or 4 conversations, and I tried to tell him what he was facing. He had a passion, and he had a strong passion and I think the vision of, I want to see a mayor active in the community. And I know I was, and I think anybody.
Dean definitely is. I mean, somebody contacted me right after our podcast dropped about some information they were acquiring about schools and what his plan was. And I put them in a group text and I said, hey, my friend Stephanie is looking for some information about the schools and blah, blah, blah. And he responded right away and said, let's go grab coffee, 1 o'clock on Friday. You know, he was on top of it. And I called him in regards to another situation. He was at my house within 20 minutes. I mean, he is definitely on top of it. And you can tell that, you know, he's ready. He's prepared.
And I think, well, you know, there's no question. And I think that that's exactly what's needed. People have reached out to me and have asked me, quizzed me as to, really what are the things you really think is needed, in the community? Because he's used a few things, and I look at it. I think a new young vision. I kid with some people and I say, Bill Murray, once this is over, I'm at the stage now. You probably won't see me on the political scene again. My wife laughs and my kids laugh.
You never know.
But you never know. I really mean it because, I've done my time. I've had my.
Did it stress you out? Did it take a lot out of you?
Well, you can let it do it, and I wouldn't say it hasn't.
I think your time in business kind of prepped you for that.
It did. But I think you need a new vision. What I see in Brad right now is the people in his campaign. I don't know half of them. They're all new people. People have moved into town and have kind of jumped onto his cause. And I think that's a healthy thing for the town of Cumberland.
It is. A lot of people I see attack Brad about certain things, especially about this land parcel that I want to get into a little bit, just because I'm trying to grasp it and I'm trying to understand why this is happening, because it doesn't really make sense to me. So to my understanding, the original agreement was done between you and the original tenant, the original landowner, correct?
Well, the owner of the land. Yep.
The owner of the land.
McMillan was his name.
And then Brad bought that contract off of the owner of that land.
I'm not sure who he bought that off.
Whoever it was, but he acquired the
Well, here's the
land.
sequence. First of all, so I'm upfront about it. I never really got involved in it, and I'm a very hands-on guy, but I lived on Staples Road, further down.
Okay.
So my chief of staff, my legal people, our attorney, and my public works director worked it. McMillan was a fellow to own this land. He originally wanted to put up a number of, I don't remember the exact number, but a number of houses on the land that he owned, which was one of the parcels was where Dean bought. This was in 28. Well, it started really probably near 2017, the end of 2017, because he'd been after us. Problem is he ran out of money. Now, we fixed the road at one point because the road had a very serious hump in it, safety-wise. And so we were kind of involved in the road on that basis for the safety part of it. So when we were in discussions with him, he needed a cul-de-sac and a road going in to be able to put up a number of these houses. But he didn't have the money. So it got down to, as I understand it, a push and shove as to either he was able to do it or he was going to go bankrupt, which would mean the town has no, taxes out of there. It'll be a nightmare. You're going to have, forgetting himself. And they wanted to help him, and which they did. Now, I want to dispel the rumor that they try to paint the picture. This was a last minute thing as Bill Murray is leaving office. That's so far from this. We've been working on this. What I insisted when I lost the primary to Mudder, I insisted that we get everything done that we could get done so that we didn't dump a whole load on him.
So you were looking out for Mudder.
In my mind I was, but then it backfired on me because they went through all my emails and a few other things came out. Is that I didn't want to leave him with a bag full of monkeys.
And that ties back to what Mickey left you, and you know what kind of a situation it's like to be left something good.
And I was lucky because he got a lot of things done that I didn't have to tackle. So saying that, at that point, the only person I knew on the Dean family was the father.
Mhm.
I didn't know Brad Jr. from a hole in the wall. Brad Sr. had been a supporter of mine, and I knew him. There was no talk about his son moving up there. So my team put together a deal to try to help this poor guy, McMillan. They did that. And you got to also picture where this is. It's an end of a road that if 2 or 3 cars go the past where Brad Dean's place is now, that's a lot of cars. It's a dead road.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the key.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I think it's a year and a half later, the property came up, and I believe he bought it on a tax sale. So I stand to be corrected. So he didn't buy it exactly from McMillan. It was a tax sale.
Got it.
Originally, the land trust was going to buy it, and they backed out. And at that time, there was another realtor involved. So again, when it finally came down, that was close to 2 years after we left office. So my argument is, how does the finger gets pointed at us when you have a condition where the road doesn't need to be widened the way they've forced him to do?
And that was in the original agreement, correct? That was not in the original agreement when he took over the property.
That's correct.
They didn't need to
as I understand it.
Right. Me too. Yeah.
I can't say definitely because I haven't seen the written copy of it. You know?
Right.
And also they made him put a guardrail up. I mean, fair is fair. Now, if you look around, there's other properties, not that I know of under when I was there, but other mayors have had property that you kind of try to work with the homeowner. There's so many laws around anyway. Well, nobody's trying to benefit from it. They're just trying to help somebody.
Yeah.
And that's what this situation is. But you got to look at this road. I've walked it so many times when I was living down below. I used to walk my dog up there. It's a road, believe me, it's all ledge. And the town has never fixed it. And I know that Brad Dean mentioned that he has a plow. He'll plow it and everything.
Yeah, he said he would take care of the whole cul-de-sac.
But I think when this
political, that whole area.
but once he announced that he was going to run, they put the pressure on him.
Wow. So, I mean, that's just a political tactic that it sounds like they're using in order just to kind of get him.
You said that. I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, it's just obvious,
I agree.
All I'm doing is putting together the pieces that I'm gathering.
I think you're spot on.
Yeah. So this morning, or this afternoon while I was at work, I got a message, or I think I saw it on Facebook, that Jeff Mutter responded to the podcast. And again, I did reach out to Jeff, and clarification, I'm not picking a side. I'm literally just stating what I see and the information that I'm gathering. I'm putting it together. I did reach out to him. He didn't get back to me. Jeff, feel free to reach out to me anytime. You're welcome to come on and share your campaign and what it's like. But let's play this video and we'll kind of react to this. Fire pit chats.
So I think one of the most interesting concepts during the campaign really came to light this week on a podcast about a new school, a new high school, and then moving the middle schools to the current campus at the high school. And so, this really, I think, embodies, the difference between, some sort of concept and in the world of reality, right? So let's not even get into the fact that the land is land trust land. So let's just stay away from that.
Can you pause that real quick?
What
does that mean when he says that? That the land is land trust land?
It means, and I'm not sure what it is, but the land trust owns a lot of land around the town, and they take care of it. That's always been a big benefit to the town.
But why does that even matter?
Well, that's a good question. Because
Okay.
I don't know whether you can do anything because unless the land trust wanted to, give up some of their land.
But
to
they,
build. He's spinning. This is a spinoff from us saying that why don't we make the middle schools combined into the high school and then
Right.
build another high school?
And he wants to
He's
build
saying-
it, Brad wants to build it
got it.
behind the Tucker Field,
Yeah,
Right,
right.
which we can't
which
do
is the land trust.
if it's a
Okay,
land
got
trust.
it, got it. Okay, go ahead.
Point of just the conversation, but if you look at Warwick, North Providence, and the cost of anything today, which he has decried, also, but to build a brand new high school and then move the middle schools there, we're talking about a number that, when added to already at 2018 a school construction bond that we are completing, in the process of completing right now for $80 million, in excess of $80 million. And then in 2022, a bond passed for a new school at BF Norton. The thought of adding something in the vicinity of $300 million to the school budget, first of all, I don't think it would pass muster with our financial advisors. But if you just isolated on that, the two projects prior that I just spoke about was the 2018 bond for the elementary schools and the middle schools, and BF Norton are at reimbursement rates from the state in excess of 60%. The conventional or regular reimbursement rate for the town of Cumberland is somewhere around 38%. The new high school would not be eligible for a 60 or 64% reimbursement. It would be at 38%. And you can all day and tomorrow go down there and, I think he said, show me the money, and they're going to show him the door. But if you did the math, just rough math, at $300 million for a new high school, which doesn't even count what you'd have to do to at the current campus to, for middle school students. But let's just use $300 million at that 38% reimbursement from the state, and just quickly talk about that being a $200 million expense with no interest. $200 million over 30 years. Quick math will put you in the $7 million range. Add the interest rates, and clearly you're going to be in excess of $8 million. And recognizing
you can
that
pause
4%.
it, Ash. So it sounds like he's just shooting down the idea completely, which is fine. He can have his opinion. But to go back to having fresh ideas and having a fresh, leadership role in that position, I think, how easily do you think that's something that could be possible, that could get done?
I don't think it would be easy. I think that especially now, the way things are going, where money is so tough, I think that it would definitely be a challenge. And the figures really are not that far off, to be very frank about it.
Yeah.
But I think your point is well taken, and again, it's something that I said earlier about the vision, is that we all have that tendency, when you're there too long, to block anything that could be good.
You get stuck in the mud.
So my position would be, if you took the challenge and looked into it, who knows what would come out of it?
Yeah.
But to just say no is I think is a tough way to go.
It's something that I've learned in business, that I've learned that failure is almost something that I welcome at this point, because I always get a lesson out of it. I always learn something from not being able to do something. Right. So I welcome any kind of decision like that. Listen, he's going to find out really quick if it's possible, if it's not possible.
Absolutely.
But to just shut it down and be like, you're not going to be able to do it, I think is kind of, just something that he's using to be able to say, see, he's nuts. Yeah. That's not going to make sense. So, but in all fairness, I think Brad, if that's something that he sees as a vision, and we all see that he's very, very motivated to get into this position, I think he will, like I said, he'll find out really quick if it'll work or not.
The way I would look at it is, Brad has run a company that has expanded. He has a huge, I think it's 600,000 square feet down near the airport.
Yeah.
That even his father has said, when Brad came on and started getting very much involved in the day-to-day running, they've expanded to California and Georgia. and they have over 110 people working for them. And this is, I'm sure, was a challenge to buy this property down in Warwick, along with other warehouses that they own. But that's a business person. And that's what I like about it, is that, a business person looks at everything. It doesn't mean all of a sudden, oh, you can't build X, Y, Z in this area. They're going to look at it and challenge it. And if it could be done, who knows what's ahead of us in expansion in Cumberland. And if that's what's going to be needed, do we keep dumping money into old schools and everything like that?
Right.
I don't necessarily. I mean, you could really even look at the elementaries and combining it. But again, it's worth a so-called vision to check it out.
It's worth looking into, because things are just going to keep getting more expensive.
That's right.
If anything, right now, people can say right now may not be the time to do it, but I kind of disagree with that. I think right now, if anything, may be the time to do it, because things are just going to keep rising. The price of material is just going to keep increasing.
Absolutely.
So if the vision's there, I think he just needs to get in office, get his team together, put some numbers down, and figure out if it's a possibility or not. And it's that simple. If it's something that he wants to do, we should implore that, and we should support him on that. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then we go back to the drawing board.
What do you lose?
Nothing.
In my estimation, and really, when you look at it, he's going to have his hands full if he wins, and just to get started. I can tell you this is not going to be number one on his chart. And but again, it's something that you have a goal. I mean, I had a goal. In fact, Mayor Mutter had a goal when he ran against me and said he was going to build a new senior center. There's no new senior center, and he's never going to build it.
Yeah, I'm sure you had goals too that
absolutely
that weren't put in place, because it's just you were involved in so many other things.
You can't do it, and again, go back to Mercy Woods. One of my goals, and it just dragged until we finally bought it, was exactly what the design that came out. That's what I wanted up there, was this beautiful complex that could be, used for all our youth. And I had people say, well, why are you doing it? I said, our lifeblood here in Cumberland is the youth.
Yeah.
And we don't have you can check with everybody. And I'm all over the place because I get grandkids that are all in athletics. You should see some of these complexes that are built all over
they're incredible. Central Falls just put up an incredible location.
Yeah. And, they were fortunate because of their situation. They get more money than Cumberland would get. But again, that can be a goal that you have to challenge to go after.
Right.
Again, in his spot or anybody's spot, you're going to come in as mayor. The healthy part is to have a long list of what you want to achieve. And this way you have a challenge to say, this is what I need and this is what I'm going to go after. And some of it falls by the wayside and some of it sticks.
Yeah, you got to be
but if you go in with a very narrow mind of, I can't do it.
Yeah.
You're going to go nowhere.
You got to be a good leader.
Yeah, well,
got to be a good leader.
So it's to my understanding that a lot of people are now leaving Cumberland. Is that correct, or why would that be?
You're talking about town government?
Yes.
Well, it's not. It's been over a period of time, and there has been a number of people that, few of them worked for me originally, and I'm not saying they left for that reason, but they've lost at least. Well, I know they've lost at least 2, maybe 3 HR directors, 3 or 4 finance directors, water superintendent left, public works. Those are all key jobs.
Yeah.
That we talked earlier about. When you get into a management leadership position, you've got to really set your foundation. And I was always fortunate. I lost a finance director at one point halfway through, but I replaced him right away. And I always had a very strong team that stayed together. A lot of things will happen, and I know we'll talk about it, but a couple of things that have fallen between the tables have really been generated for the fact that people have left. And, especially in government, when people leave, new people come in and sometimes are not attuned to what is going on, is not led right. And so those things kind of, again, fall between the tables. And that's where you have your problems.
So it sounds like a lot of people left because they just weren't happy with the current administration or the way things were rolling.
I really, you could read into it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Again, just observing.
Yeah, no,
just observing.
and you certainly can do that.
Yeah.
I would say that you got to look at the facts.
Mhm.
I've been in business. I've had people in business, and usually, well, you got two types. You have disgruntled people, but it's your challenge to make sure that you know the reason why, so you can correct who is ever disgruntled. Why are they disgruntled? Because again, you have to have a team that works together, and not just here and there all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because other things don't get done. Now, I can say that this administration that's been there now 6 years has not. If I gave a list of what we accomplished in 4 years, it's pretty vast because I was able to do that with good personnel that were part of my team.
Strong foundation.
Exactly. And, now there's not a lot. You can look at Diamond Hill Park. That's been a long time trying to get that underway. Not that I tried to get a new community center, but there was no money available. You can always remember, too, this administration was very fortunate in one way with the COVID and all the money that came in from the federal and state government. I don't knock them for that, but it's been delay after delay, and now you're looking at a tremendous increase over what the original figure was, and I'd be the last one to knock progress. You've got a community center there that I'm going to be very surprised as to what does it really do.
Yeah, that's what we've been asking ourselves. What is it for?
If you hear about it, and I'm not in the inner circle, so I don't know. Is they're going to have weddings up there. You have weddings. First of all, you just mentioned it about driving up there. Imagine on a Saturday having somebody having a wedding, and then all these cars are there.
No, and they're going to park at the ice cream machine, and they're going to be crossing the street. The traffic's going to build up.
It's going to be a nightmare. But the other part of it, how about your local businesses? You got to have a wedding, and then these local businesses are going to lose somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just common sense.
Are they building that building in hopes to generate profits from
I believe by having the weddings, yes.
And I'm guessing they're going to be having other functions there as well to try to generate profit.
If you don't, you're really spending, which I heard is close to $8 million. You're spending $8 million
without any return.
Having a building.
Without any return.
And I'm not saying you don't need the building.
Yeah, but do we? Really got to look into that. It's like, do we really need that building?
Well, you probably need some type of a version of that building, for maybe we used to have a dance class up there, and then sometimes there's meetings.
The pictures are taken for football. There is a lot of things that we do use it for. I'm there probably twice a year for something.
But the other thing too is you got to remember who was going to go up there. It is out of the way, meaning it's up to the northern end of the town.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one factor you have to look at. And the other factor, which I think really is a big one, is I haven't heard any plans is how is it going to be run? The current recreation director, who is excellent, he worked for me, not because he worked for me. I'm not trying to, but Mike Crowley is, I put him in charge also of the senior center, and he's done a great job at the senior center. When he took it over, we had 100 people. They now have over 800 in the senior center. He knows what he's doing, but his hands are full with the recreation and all the fields. He's not going to be able to monitor the new community center.
So they would have to essentially hire someone to monitor it.
Oh yeah, you'd have to bring some. But where's the plan?
Right.
I haven't heard anything.
No plan. But also circling back to the way things are being led. Perhaps it's taking so long. You were able to accomplish a lot in your 4 years, but a lot of the government workers that were the foundation in your community, your group,
Right.
are now gone. So that could have added a lot of the extra delays as to getting any projects done. I think the
Well,
community building it's beautiful. It's a nice
no question.
upgrade.
No
It's
question.
not too much different from us saying let's upgrade the school system, the middle school and the high school.
Right.
However, it does create additional problems. There's the parking there. We're there every Saturday for soccer, and the parking is it's horrendous. You know, it's very tight. We have a large truck that
Mhm.
almost hits everything on our way out. So there's
I'm
issues
glad to
there.
know that because I'll stay away on Saturday.
Yeah, stay away
No,
on
it is. It's a
Saturdays.
nightmare over there.
Yeah, I know.
It's a nightmare.
Oh, I
And-
was just there.
Yeah, it's
I was just there for my grandson's flag football.
Yeah.
we can barely park. There's somebody that that last time we were there, I'm like, who runs this? Like, who is in charge? Because I was actually surprised at all the organization on the parking. I'm like, okay, they're actually thinking about where they're parking. But then I noticed that somebody was kind of directing it, but it wasn't somebody from the town. I think it
Oh.
was somebody that was just doing out of the kindness of their
Yeah,
hearts.
probably somebody involved with the soccer or something.
Something.
Knowing it's a problem because it's a
Well, when that
It's
thing's
a-
up, when that thing's up and running on a Saturday morning, right? And you
for
have
weddings, plus
when you have an
people that
event there
wanna be
because
there for hiking and
Yeah.
we have the bike ramps there now too.
yeah,
the pump track.
the
That's
pump
another.
track.
That's another thing. I closed the pump. We had a small one,
Mhm.
so now they've spent money on that. So if you really look at it, so the pump track I closed. I had to close because the insurance, and I'm not sure they have insurance, but I can't say it because I don't know.
how much does something like that cost for insurance? Like
Oh, we couldn't even get it. We couldn't even get it for the pump track, and it was a smaller. By the way, it was a smaller pump track.
the
was-
one
It
that
was all
to the
dirt.
left,
It,
the dirt one. Yeah,
it was
we
up
know.
in the back,
Yeah.
and then now they put it. So look at all the asphalt they put up there. I understand. I like to know what the safety program up there is because I've heard there's been a bunch of accidents,
Oh.
not serious, but
No, it will be
just,
though.
just figure it out,
It
right?
will be.
And my other question is, who's using it? I'm going to guess Woonsocket and maybe some kids from Rentham, which is very easy to get to. But do you
Yeah.
think anybody south of 295 is going to go all the way up there for that?
No, I mean, when I was young, I was a skateboarder, and we did always know
Sure,
about
yeah.
the locations.
Sure.
Like if there was a place in Providence, we would go to Providence. If there was a place,
Yeah.
we went all the way out to Colt State Park in Bristol at sometimes just to get out. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of surrounding communities that
utilization is
come.
going to be great for that.
But-
There's a lot of children, but we as homeowners can't even have trampolines in our backyard without insurance going up. So that's a huge.
It's
It
a
must
big-
be a huge.
It's got to be a liability if they have it. I mean, I'm not accusing them not
Yeah.
to. I just don't know because I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
And the trust who does all our insurance, who still does the town, unless they've been able to locate a outside insurance company, but that's another problem. That's another problem that,
Yeah.
and look at the two bathrooms that are built there. And you say you've been up there. I don't know whether you tried to use them. Half the time they're locked.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
just going to
And-
say they're never open, so
Well,
I don't even
that's-
try anymore.
No, and that was over $300,000 to put those
That
in.
bathroom facility was?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
In fact, to be honest with you, I believe the figure I heard was $350.
And they probably closed it
And
for homeless reasons or just a lot of different
I don't
reasons.
know what the reasons.
People were
but-
probably using it doing things in there that
Yeah,
they
they
probably
shouldn't
shouldn't have
have
been
been
doing. Yeah.
Well, and at the point to spend that much money, but that's all management,
Mhm.
you know, and they maybe have a legitimate reason. But I've had a lot of people ask me about that, and it's nice. It's nice to do things, but you've got to be conscious of what the costs are.
Yeah.
And to me, it's kind of a runaway train. When you go from 4 million to 8 million, and maybe somebody wants to dispute it, and I'll accept it, but that's the information I have. That's a lot of money, and it just seemed, as you know, and it's not that I'm not pinning them down as their fault, but they got into a building, they started digging, they found all these stumps. So here again, everything is done as another layer to what your costs are.
Naturally. I
And-
mean, any project like that, you're going to start digging
well,
in and you're going to find a whole lot of
Yeah,
things that you didn't.
So you've got to be prepared for
You have
that.
to be prepared.
And I don't see that. It's almost like, okay, I can go and I can move and we'll do it, and it's done. But somebody should be questioning that,
Yeah.
and maybe there's a good reason. I'm all for.
Yeah, I hope so too. We live right down the street. We live right across the street from Reservoir Road,
Okay.
on the side of. Well, yeah, okay, over there. I'm not gonna say exactly where I live, but
Yeah,
we live in that area. So I do hope they do figure it out at the end of the day, and I hope that it is a nice community
well, it's
center.
a fantastic
I
area.
just hope they're able to figure out the parking and
And the management
the
of it.
management.
I hope that, we can, maybe if the building is supervised as it should be regularly, they can actually open up the bathrooms, because
Yeah.
then it's also supervised.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
it'll,
it could tie in.
yeah, it could tie
Tie
in,
it,
but at
absolutely.
the end of the day, it boils down to it needs the proper leadership and management to be able to be successful.
Yeah.
And I really believe, and I'll jump into the spot that Brad Dean, with his knowledge and leadership in running a company, because that's going to take, because you got to think of these things. It's nice to say, okay, I just put up a nice building, but what are the other things that has to be done?
Yes.
And
having the business owner mindset for
And
that.
exactly,
is
it's
what we
it's
need.
that it's that idea. We just can't stop here. We've got to figure out what's further. I mean, we could also pick on, and I'm totally against it, Heritage Park down in the valley. I can't tell you how many times we fixed that place up, and every year that I was mayor, we had special.
Is that across the street from the
cleanup.
town hall?
That's across from the town hall that
Okay.
they're going to dump a bunch of money into. It's not going to work. Most of it is the homeless around there and the
I know.
drugs and everything.
Yeah.
And it's down into a gully that you can't, the police can't even watch it.
Yeah, that
And-
location is really tough because it's right on the border of Central
well,
Falls.
excuse me, Governor McKee,
Yeah.
before I came in, had spent a ton of money, because we had a big 4th of July celebration there in 2012, maybe 2013. Yeah, probably 2013. Beautiful celebration when it was all cleaned up and everything. You know how long it lasted? 2 months.
Yeah.
And it was a mess. And they have, because that's the old Hathaway, the old Hathaway company. That's
Yeah.
where they originally started from. So there's all over the park, there's these beautiful kind of billboards that are all protected, but there's graffiti all over them. So it's a shame.
Yeah.
And why would you point and more money? And now the Emerald Building, which is the building right next to Town Hall, there's no parking. It's supposed to be that's going to be another community center for who?
Yeah, if the location isn't working now as it stands, and there's graffiti going on, because like
Right.
I know from being a kid in Cumberland recently, like not that was the area that was a tougher area,
No.
that a lot of activity went down into, dump money into something that's already not working in hopes that, oh, maybe we can turn this around. You can't just turn stuff like that around. It's deeper than that. You can't gather all the people who are there and say, hey, you're not allowed back here. Or
Mhm.
it's more of it's way deeper than just like, we're going to fix it with nicer things, because that's just going to attract them more. And it's going to, that's just the way it is. Let's jump into really quick, the dam on Rawson Road.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because the dam on Rawson Road has kind of taken a few things that have been sideswiped on it. We originally, again, that's another thing that was under progress for actually 2 wells to be put, one there and one at Schofield. And the one at Franklin Farm, when we originally got that thing going, we had looked at it, did a study on it, had experts in. I had a great water superintendent who, by the way, left, Chris Champy, and Chris was very good about knowing his business, knowing what was happening. And he had come to me and asked, he said, I'd like to purchase this land on Rawson Pond, which was right near the well. And he said, because what it'll do is it'll secure for 100 years the well, because you never know on a well, if the well went dry 20 years from now or 50 years from now, all we do is move that over. Now, one of the wrong looks at this is that it wasn't that we were going to move to take water out of the pond. It was that just the property there was to put a new well in. So it would be less money to do it. Very, very good. So I said, well, look into it. And we really got into it. And we knew we had an old dam there, which had to be part of the purchase.
Yeah.
We brought people in to look at it. They said if it was maintained, we have no problem. The other part of it is that we brought our highway department in and said, can you maintain this with no problems, which they agreed and said, yeah, we can do this with no problem. We were definitely told if you maintained it, the thing would go on and on and on. If you didn't maintain it, something could happen. So that was part of a decision. I went then to the council and I asked them, what questions do you have? The council, in turn, voted, I believe it was 5-1. I think somebody was missing, but say 5-1, could be 6-1. It was only one dissenter. And lately, one of our councilwomen claimed that we lied to her. Well, my comeback is, how do we lie to you when we went out to you and asked you for all the questions to be answered? Plus the fact they had an attorney that sat up on the council board that had something to say about everything that went on, on the council. So
What is she saying that you lied about?
she just that we gave them wrong information about the dam, and it wasn't the case. That's what I'm saying. They had an attorney. There's no transcript that said the attorney didn't like it or anything. Why do we? Believe me, I had trouble with this council. I never got a 5-1 vote in my life on this council.
No kidding.
So fast forward, we knew what we had to do. Now here you go back to the losing people. The superintendent, Chris Champy, left, I believe he left in 2020. Don't hold me to it, I'm guessing. But around that time, he left I've talked to him. He said, I left everything for the next person coming in, what had to be done, that had to be maintained with other things that had to be done. And he said it. Not only did he say it, but my public works director, who worked hand in hand with him as an engineer, he left. And he then again said that he left a whole bunch of stuff which they claimed they didn't find. But we know it's on a computer somewhere in the town, but you can't erase the computer stuff. Mm-hmm. But I'm not even going to argue about it. The bottom line was it all fell between the tables and nobody maintained it. And first of all, Mayor Mutter claimed he never would have bought it. That's his decision. My decision, and sitting here right now, I'd buy it again. It was a protection of the water system.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you buy it? And all you had to do was to be careful. Second of all, I know there was a report by a firm that said that you have to maintain this dam back in 2020 or 2021. I'm not sure. Then there was the DEM supposedly had a statement, but there's also a memo that I heard from people said they did say it was an email sent to Mayor Mutter that was some loose boards by one of the residents, and nothing was done. So how can you stand there and then point fingers back? Now, there was another statement made of that we made an agreement with the people that surround the pond. And I cannot find anybody that remembers any type of meeting. I know I didn't, and I got a pretty good memory.
Of any of the people
you've
around
heard me
the pond?
For the last hour. I can, you don't see any notes in front of me. And so I got a good memory. I don't remember meeting with anybody and telling them that this, or that. And yet that statement was made. It's all false. The bottom line is it was not maintained. So accept the problem and move on.
So how could they fix the problem? Just start maintaining it? Like, it's a responsibility
they lost it. They lost the thing because they didn't maintain it. So boards came loose and nobody's paying attention to it. And they have the problem now. Now it's been redone.
So they're just saying, I didn't know about it. They're just
No, they didn't say that. They just they basically aren't saying anything except that pointing fingers that we bought the dam. So, and it's a general statement.
Yeah.
The former mayor or former administration bought the dam. Yeah, we did, but we know
With
exactly
good
what
intention, though.
we do exactly what we were doing.
Oh, that's
And
very interesting. It's
and
kind
it-
of like what I said earlier about just like they kind of just stay tight-lipped on everything and kind of just hope that the problem goes away.
Well, it's funny. You'll see an ad Thursday come out, and it basically says, love to point fingers, but never take any blame.
Yeah. Listen, I think that I think what Brad is doing right now, I think it's genuine. We've had him in and we had an hour and a half conversation with him. I've spoken with him off air. He's very passionate about what he's doing right now. He is a driven individual. He's not dumb by any means. He runs a big company and has a lot of success in that company. I know a lot of people who rent from him. I know the Dean warehouses. I was just over there today. They're very well maintained. All of his properties are very established. And the Dean name in Cumberland is prominent. It's a very respected name in town. So I think, you know, I hope everybody goes out to vote, uses their best judgment. I hope this can clarify some of the issues that were brought to the table. And yeah, I think this was a great informative podcast.
I believe exactly what you said, and I'll add something. The Dean family over the years have done a ton of stuff for mainly the youth. I mean, not one, two things, but I'll tell you one quick thing. We redid the ball field on Martin Street, and I ran out of money to finish it off. We had lights and we redid it. It was closed down by a former administration way back, and it's a great field. I didn't have money to put a fence up. All I did was call the Deans, and I said, I'm in a jam. I don't have the money. What can you do? Put the fence up and you'll have a check.
Wow.
Just let me know how much. I'm on the Honor Mills Parade Committee that we've been raising money because we're coming up to the 100th year, which is it's just a great thing, and we wanted to save the parade. And I'm firsthand on there. And when I got on, I wasn't aware of it, but the Deans every year for the past 10, 15 years have whether it's equipment for the parade, trucks and whatnot, and flatbeds, or money. And then I went to them this year and said to them, this is prior to Brad even saying that he was going to, I said, no, I apologize. No, he had already committed, but I said, if you would need a few dollars here and there, and the checks were there. And then he got $400 because his float, which was a political float, was a beautiful float. He got a $400 reward, and he turned it back into the parade association.
Yeah.
So that's the family that you're dealing with.
Sounds
I'm
like
very impressed with Brad Dean. I'm very new to learning about Cumberland itself, but as I meet each of the key players, I don't see how anyone whose family has generations that were born and raised in Cumberland would want nothing but the best for this town. So Brad does come with a lot of passion and a lot of focus, and I think he's more for the people than over profit, and that's what every small, beautiful town needs. So
Well,
And he's not a phony about it.
he's not a phony,
No,
and he is
no.
a businessman. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, he
Right.
understands how to budget. He understands how to delegate, and I'm sure his leadership is very tight.
You know, it's very important too, and he's not new to profit. I noticed that in business and in politics, when somebody's new to profit, they can get greedy. He's not new to profit. So when I am fortunate enough, and I will be, to get into position where I can give back to my community, I will do that. And I feel like that's what Brad is doing right now. He's giving back to his community the best way he knows how.
He's very passionate of what he's doing. A lot of people I've been with him. A lot of people say, "What are you, crazy?"
Yeah.
And he smiles. I tell another story. I introduced him to a bunch of people at an event, and then I went off. And an hour later, I went back. He's still talking to those people.
Yeah, I can see that.
He loves people, loves to talk. He's going to give them the time for him to listen, like I said to him. And I always thought that was a strength I had, was I was able to listen to people. And you get a lot out of that if you listen to people, and you you know what their problems are, and then you can deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're in a cocoon, and I won't say any more than that, if you're in a cocoon, you don't know what's going on, and that's tough. You can't lead or direct by that.
We'll wrap up with this. What advice would you give somebody that is either interested or looking to get into politics?
Don't do it. No, I say that, and I told you that I told Brad that I thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
And not because he couldn't do it. I would say that if you have the desire, I have a grandson who surprised me, graduated from PC, not in political science, and all of a sudden I find out he's working for Schumer, Senator Schumer, loves politics. And so my advice, and he's still in it, he loves it, not making a lot of money. He's on the ground floor. He worked for Senator Whitehouse. But somebody like that, or anybody else that really likes what they see and feels that they can help, by all means get into it. But get into it for the right reason. I got into it through helping somebody, but then the right reason was I wanted to do well with it, but don't get in for your own benefit. In other words, don't say, I'm going to get into politics because this is what I'm going to gain from it. Now, you'll automatically gain something, but I'm going to tell you, it's very satisfying, I call it the political jungle, because you learn a lot, but you got to be in it for the right reason. If you think you're going to come out of it, wealthy or with some money, it's not going to happen. And you can't get into it for that reason.
Yeah, it's getting into it for service, for public service. That's
Absolutely.
Be a
foremost.
voice for the people.
And the last part of it is you're doing it to help your community.
Yeah.
Like you just said, is that you come to a community and you love the community, then by all means, before I even got into politics, I told you I ran a hockey stuff, and it was all around my kids, but I was very active in all those programs, Cub Scouts, you name it. And that's what makes a community. You have people who get involved and really put an effort in. It's the people that sit back and complain about everything. And I always say, if you're going to complain, don't bother me.
Bill Murray, thank you for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate having you on. And everybody go vote on the 5th. And
absolutely.
Thank you, Bill.
If they can, and thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely.
To talk. This was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.